Hi, my name is Mandy Buchanan, and I'm the owner of the Go Deeper Bible Studies blog. And in this series, we've been having a look at the four faces of God as they are represented in the Gospels, and how each Gospel shows a different face or a different characteristic of Jesus. Today, we're going to be having a look at the face of the eagle and how it represents Jesus' divinity. The eagle is able to soar high in the sky, and the heavens are often associated with the place where God lives. The skies are associated with the place where God lives. And so therefore the eagle represents Jesus' divinity. The face of the eagle is represented in the Gospel of John. And John's aim was to show the people that Jesus was the Son of God. And his focus was on Jesus' divinity. So unlike the Gospels of Matthew and Luke that showed a genealogy of Jesus, where Jesus was the king and the human, the Son of Man, John focuses on the fact that Jesus has always been there, and starts by saying, "In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was with God in the beginning. Through him all things were made. Without him nothing was made that has been made. In him was life, and that life was the light of all mankind." And then it goes on to show that Jesus was this Word and this light that came into the world and became flesh and dwelt among us. So it's not a genealogy in the traditional sense of the word, but it is like a genealogy for God. The fact that God had no genealogy, he has always been, and he will always be. And so it was the same with Jesus. Before he was born on earth, he had always been with God, and he will always be with God. So John was focusing on that aspect as opposed to Jesus's genealogy, and also the birth. You won't find a nativity in the Gospel of John. It goes straight from saying that Jesus always was, right into showing John preparing the way for Jesus. Another verse that we know from John that isn't in any other Gospel is that of John 3:16. "For God so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish but have eternal life." So here we see the fact that Jesus is God's Son. And that was the whole point of the Gospel of John, was to show Jesus as the Son of God and as God himself. And there's also a lot more "I am" statements in the Gospel of John than in any other Gospel. We know in Exodus, God revealed himself as "I am," or Yahweh, and in John, Jesus makes a lot of "I am" statements. "I am the bread of life. I am the light of the world." And that is to point out the fact that he is God. In John 8, verse 58, it says, "Very truly I tell you," Jesus answered, "before Abraham was born, I am." And there again, Jesus was claiming to be God, and John was the only one who sort of focused on this aspect, that Jesus was claiming to be God, and he was God. After Jesus' death, it shows in John Jesus appearing to his disciples and appearing to Thomas. But there isn't really any show of his ascension into heaven, and like there was with Matthew and Luke. Instead, John ends his gospel by saying, "Jesus performed many other signs in the presence of his disciples, which are not recorded in this book. But these are written that you may believe that Jesus is the Messiah, the Son of God, and that by believing you may have life in his name." So he doesn't show the ascension because Jesus is from heaven and he's going back to heaven. But he shows that his whole aim in writing the Gospel of John was to point to the fact that Jesus was the Son of God. And there are many different stories throughout the Gospel of John where Jesus claims to be the Son of God, or where he does things that prove him to be the Son of God. So I trust that you've enjoyed this series on the four faces of God and that you found it interesting. Next week, we will be starting another longer series, which will last for the remainder of this year. And yeah, I trust you'll join us then. Thank you and goodbye.